When it comes to the financial fallout from the coronavirus, the impact has not been felt equally. It's forced a record-breaking number of small businesses to close, at least temporarily. And what we're looking at this morning is how the pandemic is affecting diverse communities economically and medically. Consider this. There was a 41% decline in black business owners, from February to April, and a 32% drop in Latino business owners. That is compared to a 17% decrease in white business owners. Errol Barnett has examined some of these inequities. Errol, good morning. Really striking figures. What did you learn?
Hey there, good morning, Tony. You're right. Well, what we know is that this struggle is real. Of course, COVID-19 has impacted hundreds of millions of Americans. We've all been touched in some way, whether it's medically, financially, socially, or psychologically. And while we've long said this virus doesn't discriminate, the numbers do show us that this is hitting the pocketbooks of minorities the hardest. And right now, they are struggling to stay afloat. Inside one of the wealthiest countries in the world, sobering images like these have flashed across television screens and been printed on newspaper pages. Struggling Americans looking for food. It's a symptom of COVID-19, although it's not one you'll find in a medical journal. As the pandemic now stretches into the summer, the economic impact of the disease is coming into sharper focus. For many in America's working class, the work has dried up. National unemployment figures at their highest levels since the Great Depression. And for African Americans, that number deepens to nearly 17%.
Turned my life upside down.
Will Turner lost his popular Atlanta area restaurant after COVID shuttered the state of Georgia. And as far as a federal economic injury disaster loan, Turner was denied, forced to reopen his old food truck to try and support his family.
I had a friend of mine who also owns a Pilates studio here in Atlanta. Her EIDL loan was approved for $300,000. However, mine was denied. You can call it classism, racism, whatever you want to call it. But when the lead advisor to the president says that there's no such thing as systemic racism in our society, and he's leading the advisory board on economics to the president, we got a serious problem in this country.
The pandemic really does shine a light on a number of economic disparities along racial lines.
Valerie Wilson directs the Economic Policy Institute's program on race, ethnicity, and economy.
So many black-owned businesses are really lifelines for their parts of the city.
They're lifelines in their parts of the city. They can hire and employ more people, are an important part of building and strengthening the U.S. economy as a whole.
A recent survey of 500 minority-owned businesses found only 12% received a loan amount requested, and nearly two-thirds had yet to receive any help.
It's been a total nightmare.
New York City salon owner Juliet Anderson is one of the many Americans who hasn't seen any loan assistance from the government. Her shop is in the Bronx, the New York borough with one of the highest minority populations in America's largest city.
The pandemic has been a complete full stop in terms of income, in terms of livelihood. I would say 9 out of 10 did not get
the PPP.
Yes. And so they've been struggling to stay afloat.
Just staying afloat during the pandemic is a problem so many Americans are wrestling with, including Will Turner.
Just like the actual virus that people are catching, black people are disproportionately affected by it because we already had more pre-existing conditions than white people did. And just like black businesses, if you had a pre-existing condition in your black business, your chances of survival were a lot less than your white counterparts.
Now, Will Turner tells us he just got approved for a PPP loan, but unfortunately, it won't be anywhere near enough to save his restaurant. And as for Juliet, she does plan to open her business today as New York City enters phase 2 of this reopening plan that allows hair salons, barbershops, and other non-essential businesses to open their doors. But the key question here is, Gail, will the customers be back? And for how many business owners is it already too late?
I know, Errol. A lot of people on pins and needles waiting for the answer to that question. Thank you very much. I thought Will Turner in Errol's piece made such a good point. you at least have to acknowledge, Anthony, that there is a problem. And if you say that systemic racism doesn't exist, it's kind of hard to even get past that if people won't acknowledge that, listen, people are hurting here. This is a real thing.
You have to look and say, at least there might be a problem.
Yes.
Let's look and see if there is.
Yes.
You can't just close the door.
No.
I agree.
And a lot of doors are closing. It's tough.